I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Granada Community Services District for Thursday, May 21st, 2026. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Director Allen?
Here.
Director Randall?
Here.
Director Dye?
Here.
Director Marsh?
Here.
And also in attendance is General Manager Chuck Duffy, Assistant General Manager Hope Atmore, and Legal Counsel Bill Tarkin is attending via Zoom.
And Wanda Bowles,
Wanda
board member,
Bowles.
is unable to attend. Do we have comments for or items that are not on the agenda?
So I just wanted to briefly give you an update.
Oh, and I do want to say we're doing 3 minutes tonight, so
Okay, I'm going to be quicker than that.
that's great. We won't
Okay.
start till you start talking.
So just a brief update, COSIDE Allies wrapped up our meetings and kind of negotiations with the county regarding the clearing of the eucalyptus trees. Completing the 50-foot barrier behind Granada Boulevard all the way up. I think it stops at a certain point. There's a good amount of trees that need to be cleared there, as well as Quarry Park. We got email confirmation from Nicholas Calderon that will be completed in Q4 of this year.
Great.
And then COSIDE Allies has also negotiated with Kaiser Permanente to do a vaccine drive that's going to take place at senior COSIDers. We're also working with them to reinstate the bus shuttle service with a modification where we're adding a community coordinator. It's actually my husband who's going to come out of retirement because he's worked for Kaiser. So he will, instead of having the bus come into our local area and pick up 8 to 10 people, those people will be picked up by senior COSIDers van, will be at senior COSIDers in one spot, taken then over the hill to their appointments by a coordinator and brought back into town. So this is just going to ensure timeliness and that they get to their appointments and people aren't waiting for 45 minutes or left in a lounge area. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank
Wait,
you
so
very
can I
much.
ask I know we can't talk about, can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure,
Just the trees, El Granada to where, Boulevard to where?
So it's kind of in your area that it stops. I think it's like up to 300 and it starts to bulk up again. They never finish the clearing to create the 50-foot bluff that's needed behind the houses and the open space trust.
Okay.
So that entire area that goes up to the gates basically will be cleared.
On the other side, okay, so like on the.
On the east side.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
got it. All right, thank you.
I see we have a comment from the audience. Dan.
You're on mute. Dan, you're on.
Yeah.
Yes, good evening. I wanted to, I know that there's something on the agenda about the Caltrans cooperation or whatever, but I don't know if I'll find out the details of that. I'm in a little conundrum. I'd like to just make the statement that I have repeated for a decade that the informal skate ramp parking lot should stay the same as it is now with no alterations to it. Any kind of beautification, but no formalization, no light poles, no anything like that. And so I'll just say that, and I'll wait on for the item to come up, and I'll learn more, and I'll make another comment.
Thank you, Dan. We'll be talking about it later. So it is on the
Okay.
agenda.
Thank you.
Moving on, our park and recreation activities. I see that our first speaker is not here. Shall we move to the second item? All right, so that would be update on Granada Community Park and Recreation Center.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, so I'm going to turn it over to Tom Conlon, KCRH Landscape Architecture to.
Well, she's here.
Oh, that's good. Oh, there she is.
Why don't we still do it and she can, you mind, we were gonna switch and then you
This
can.
is going to be a
Okay.
long item though. Oh,
Oh, I don't know if it'll be that. You're ready.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm late.
We were all lamenting about the traffic.
Northbound Highway 1?
Yeah.
Can I put my? Yeah. Where we can find it. These ones, it's. It's the one there, Wi-Fi. That is right behind you on that photo. Are you ready? I can also share with you the activities and traffic and sorry, then late. Oh, well, whatever it is. Internet, is that right? It might be a little. Okay, I would be happy to share everything, sorry. Okay, I'll just begin because I don't need that slideshow right away anyways. Hi, my name is Haley. I work for the Coastside Land Trust and I'm here today to, well, for a number of reasons. One, to let you know just how the program's going with the Junior Land Stewards program. It's a fourth grade environmental literacy and outdoor education program that the Coastside Land Trust provides for all fourth graders in the Cabrillo Unified School District. And GCSD has generously supported this program for a number of years now to support the students at Granada Elementary. And it's enabled us to have like a sustainable program, giving us the support and the freedom to provide this amazing program to these kids free of charge to the school and to the families. So I just wanted to tell you, for those of you who don't know about the program, a little bit about it. We go on 4 walking field trips per year. We serve around 60 kids each year at Granada Elementary. And we do weekly nature journaling curriculum. So this curriculum is really impactful because it's accessible to everybody. It gets kids to slow down, really observe nature, take in the world around them, and start caring for the world around them. They get those observations down in the form of journal entries, whether it's through pictures, words, numbers, whatever, like comes naturally to them. And so it's a really accessible, really amazing way for them to connect with the world around them. So we do nature journaling curriculum, and they also have a habitat restoration project that they work on throughout the year. And so they've been growing over the past 5 years, this amazing pollinator garden at Granada Elementary. And if you walk down that new multimodal trail by the school, you can see all of the plants in bloom right now, and it's pretty cool. I'm here to just say thank you so much for your support, and also to request a renewal of the grant that you guys have provided us in the past. The past 3 years, you've supported us with $12,000 per year, and it's just a really like foundational part of our funding. And we'd love for you to renew that for the next 3 years. And if we could pull up the slides, I'll show you just some pictures of this year, what the kids have been up to. So this is one of our classes. They're up at Quarry Park. So we do 4 walking field trips, like I said. 2 are in Quarry Park, and then 2 are in Miramar Surf. Wait, what's it called?
Murata, sir.
Murata Surf, sorry, thank you. Murata Surf, east, and the school grounds and the gardens that they are growing. So this is at the quarry up at Quarry Park. Go to the next one, and this is our second class, and you can see in the background we have a bunch of yellow vests. Those are all of our high school students. They act as field guides, and they get their own special training through us. They get nature journaling training and field training so that they can lead these 4th graders in activities in small groups on their own during the field trips. And it's a huge success because the 4th graders just adore them and really look up to them and love having them there. So this is them weeding, getting invasive plants out of their future pollinator gardens. More weeding, and more. And we do lots of like exploration. So they do scavenger hunts where they're tasked with finding certain things. They do different kinds of nature journaling activities in the field, like sound mapping, and My Secret Plant, where they have to draw something in like great detail, and then they have to have their friend find what they drew. This is kind of like a hide and seek game. We have a bunch of different games that we we do in the field, and it's all kind of comes back to nature journaling. This is where they're planting their seeds, so they grow their own plants from seed for their habitat gardens. This is a new science room at Granada Elementary. It's beautiful. So that was really fun to be able to utilize that this year. And here they are writing about their plants that they are planting and watering them and putting them in the little greenhouse. This is two students sound mapping at Quarry Park. It's where you listen to all the sounds around you and get those observations down on paper in the form of a map, like which direction they're coming from, how far they are, and they can use symbols or onomatopoeias. And they do ecosystem inspections where they look like really closely at the ground and see like evidence of life and different plants that are growing there. And they just build like these amazing relationships with the high school students too. So here it is, they've grown their plants from seed and now they're planting them in the habitat garden, which is super rewarding for them. That's one of our 4th grade teachers, Lauren Williamson. She's amazing. And here it's just kind of full circle. They're planting the seeds on the left, and then this is a plant that the student on the right planted in the prior field trip that she grew from seed, and now she's coming back to weed it and see how much it's grown. And that's us just hiking in Quarry Park and some more planting on the right. And then here's some examples of their nature journal observations, which are always so impressive. Like these students are just in 4th grade and they're using all of these different tools. They're measuring, they're using color, they're shading, they're just making all these incredible observations. We're talking about pollinators, what's going on under the ground and above the ground with the plants. And we do experiments. So they did like a fertilized seed and an unfertilized seed. So they measure the growth, the difference in the growth. And then on the right side here, we did a soil lab. So they learned about soil health, soil texture, drainage, all sorts of things, erosion. Then here we have like the life cycle of a seed and a plant on the left and the water cycle on the right. So they learn about those like cyclical things that are always going on around us. And they learned about, just how to be a steward. So we talked a lot about the dangers of rodenticides this year. And so they did science about it. And then some garden signs that they put up. And then here's just, an example of the amazing, like these are plants that 4th graders grew from seed and now they're these incredible plants. So it's really kind of amazing to see. Yeah, that's all I have for you. Thank you for listening.
It's a great recreation program. It fits right into us GCSD trying to get kids outdoors and doing things. So thank you very much.
Can I ask a question?
Where are you going? Oh my goodness, I was like, it's not over yet.
Yes,
What about high school students from Halfmoon Bay?
yes. They're from AP Environmental Science and Marine Ecology, those 2 classes.
Do they get volunteer hours for that, or are they just doing it as part of their class?
They do it as part of their class. If it happens to, and it's required by their class to do at least 1 per semester. And then if it happens to fall at a time when they have like a free period or something, then they can qualify for volunteer hours.
And I know it's not elementary school, but isn't there some developments that have happened for your program for the next year?
Yes, there are. Thank you for asking. So we just got approved by the district to pilot a 7th grade program, much like the 4th grade program, but focused on bird ecology. And it's more like data driven and how birds are like signals of like the changing environment. And we figured it was a nice bridge between what we have in elementary school and what we're doing with the high school students, to have something in the middle school, to have that continuum of environmental learning. And it's such a pivotal age also, like, 7th grade is hard for a lot of kids, and birding has been proven to promote like mental health and just well-being. So that's kind of why we went in that direction. And we're so excited to pilot it. The science teachers are really excited about it. The principal's really excited. So we're going to be starting that in September, August, September this year.
Great.
Is it minutes? We write it up.
Sure. Quick, very short.
Oh, no,
very
it's
quick.
supposed to have, right?
Hmm?
Oh,
Well, we can, yeah, if you open public comments for this agenda item.
yeah.
He can make a comment, which is a question.
I'm asking a question
Okay.
and a comment. That is amazing. That is just really amazing. You mentioned how the students were coming back from one year to the next to be part of the track that they're on. Is it like a certain course that expands like year to year?
So every fourth grade student in the school district goes through the Junior Land Stewards program. And then now that we have this seventh grade pilot program that we're doing, once they reach seventh grade, they will be doing the Wing Watchers, we're calling it Wing Watchers program. And then when they get to high school, if they happen to be in AP Environmental Science or Marine Ecology, then they'll participate in the program as well as field guides. And actually, this year was the first year that we had high school students act as field guides that were once junior land stewards in fourth grade. It was really, really
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Anyone have any comments from the board?
No.
Should we make a motion?
Sure.
I'd like to move that GCSD continues our $12,000 a year funding for this program for the next 3 school years.
I second.
Second.
Oh,
Third.
go for it, Matt second.
I'd just like to comment that, I have volunteered a bit for this program and I usually take them, do a little history as we go up to Quarry Park, and these kids are great and they're getting outdoors. They're up for some of the kids, they haven't done that much outdoor stuff. And a lot of them have been there before, but it's just very gratifying and a very enjoyable thing. So anyway, so do we need a roll call? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Haley. You pass this down to Haley.
Thank you. Thanks for
That is for the,
Yes, this is for the Wing Walkers, perfect. She was borrowing it. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Just rather speak with you, please.
a very positive item. It's nice to start out with something so positive. All right, moving on. Now, sorry, Tom, we got you all ready to go, but I think we're ready for the update on the Granada Community Park and Recreation Center.
You want us to give one background on why we're doing this?
Yeah.
So we talked about this a little bit in the memo, but staff met with a number of different agencies back in, I think the first meeting was in April. We had a Zoom meeting and then we had another meeting downstairs at the Harbor District. And that meeting was with members of Coastal Commission, Caltrans, San Mateo County Planning, Mid-Coast Community Council. I mean, almost any agency you could think of, they were there. And it was a really great meeting. It was more about just getting everybody on the same page about various projects and things like that. But there was a comment that was made right at the end of that meeting regarding Caltrans being required to return their right of way where all the staging is happening right now back to informal parking. And the comment was also made that there would not be a way off the highway to get to that right of way. And so I said, well, that's funny. How are they going to get there? And somebody said, well, through the dirt lot. And I said, the one that belongs to GCSD, the one that we're turning into a park. And they said, yeah. And it's like, we're going to need to talk. So we arranged to have a follow-up meeting with Caltrans Coastal and San Mateo County Planning. Just to sort of see where we could come up with some solutions as a group. And during that meeting, it became pretty evident that, Caltrans was going to be required to turn that back into parking and that Coastal was expecting our cooperation. It did not, I'm not going to say that they said it completely outright, but it felt pretty clear to us that we were going to need to figure out a way to make this work for Caltrans in the long run. And so in the aim of doing that, we asked KCRH to sort of revisit the plan and think about either ways of making that access point available and still developing a park down there, or coming up with sort of a best scenario for us. And so that's what Tom is here to present to the board tonight.
Okay, well, great. Thanks for having me back. About 6 months ago that I was here, we looked at the last update to the master plan. And in the last 6 months, we've really done a lot of work. The landscape plans, architectural plans, civil plans have all been updated. This is all in response to the comments that were requested, or the changes that were requested by the county through the master plan, through the pre-application submittal. Our architectural team developed a lighting plan specific to the community recreation center. Our civil plans are nearly updated. We've had to incorporate some additional stormwater mitigation, biological and aquatic resources. Reports have been updated. We had to do an arborist review. Landscape water use calculations, all that has been completed. Our traffic report is nearing completion. And our administrative approval, in the administrative approval section, the certificate of compliance issue that took up almost a whole page of comments has really been resolved. So at this point, we have never been closer. Just about. But as has been the case throughout this project, these little incremental steps are not necessarily linear. They're not always 100% forward. And this most recent input from coastal staff is just another thing that we had to recalibrate around. I'm going to go dive into changes, but I wanted to confirm that this is really the only area that we've made any changes. Everything in the park north of there, everything in the area around the community recreation center is the same as you've seen it in at the last meeting and in many meetings prior to that. The enlargements, this is from the master plan that you approved back in November. And this is the nebulous area where coastal expects the district to maintain two-way vehicular access to the portion of the dirt lot that's currently used for parking in Caltrans right away. Now, coastal never suggested that Caltrans improve the lot. So like no formal parking, no paving, striping, no sidewalks, curbs and gutters or anything like that. And coastal didn't formally request that the district do anything similar to that access way. So again, no curbs, gutters, paving or anything. But a two-way vehicular passage takes up a lot of space in this area and leaves little appreciable space for the district to develop. And we know that without striping or other improved access, there's nothing to prevent people from parking willy-nilly over this nebulous access road, which could potentially block access to the right of way. It could block emergency access. It could block people in. And so there are improvements that can be made to prevent that. Painted red curbs, signage, striping are a few, but coastal isn't offering to pay for that. Caltrans isn't offering to pay for that. All of that would have to come at the district's expense. So allowing the dirt lot to remain as is, unimproved and open for access, prevents any of that sort of complication to the site. Second in our thinking in this area is that while the county has been frustratingly opaque, if not contradictory, as to their long-term plans for the planned alignment or future extension of the multimodal trail, leaving the dirt lot as is provides a way for the district to facilitate a future trail connection between Obispo Road and the Highway 1 right of way with no negative impact to the improved areas of the park. Different departments within the county have different visions for where this trail is going to go. This allows the district to not insert itself in any of those decisions, or at least not have to react to them within the park development itself.
Don't have to react to all the different counties that are arguing with each other.
Now, we acknowledge that maintaining the status quo in this area can be disappointing, considering considering all the work done over the years to envision a variety of active and passive recreation spaces within the park and for the district residents. But at this point, leaving out this section of park development really allows the district to focus the limited resources it has in the areas of the park that are most likely to receive the greatest amount of use. This is an enlargement from the plan you have. This is a more detailed enlargement of the existing dirt lot and the active area of the park. Other than concerns raised by a handful of preschool families throughout this process, the one concern that has been repeatedly raised over the years, even by those in support of the park, has been the potential for negative parking impacts on the community. And while the traffic and parking study will show that we are providing almost 3 times as much parking as is required for the park development, for the park and community center development, leaving the dirt lot as is obviates any remaining potential complaint about beach parking and community impact. The park project simply increases parking capacity, full stop. The elimination of the development on the dirt lot allows us to make some pretty significant adjustments to the active core of the park. Director Allen, at the November meeting, I recall you imploring us to find some additional space for the skate area. And with the elimination of the bridge that crossed from this area over to the Village Green and the related trails, we've been able to nearly double the size of the skate area. So the paved area in front of the ramp is about 2,500 square feet.
Beautiful, thank you.
I don't know what percent that is, but it sounds like a lot.
It's a lot more than 15.
But the rest of the active area didn't change all that much. Since the parking demands are dramatically lowered, we reduced the number of off-street parking stalls along Obispo from previously 19 down to 16. And that allowed us a kind of more graceful park entry with a little bit more vegetation and a little bit more screening of the park from off-site. So the park plaza here. Version not working. Anyway, the park plaza flows into the lawn. But other than that, the play and picnic areas remain nearly the exact same configuration as before, though slightly expanded. We've included 2 views from our current model. These are updates of the renderings that are shown on the walls behind the TV here. This one shows the entry plaza. You can see the potential for park entry signage just on the right side of the screen. The park restroom is a placeholder model that's not the final architectural design, but we needed to put something in there for context. But as you can see, this graceful plaza opens into the lawn with the picnic areas and the play structures beyond. And this second view is kind of hovering over the end of the ditch, looking north at the skate area and the lawn, and in the distance, the community recreation center. So next steps at this point, our next steps are really the coastal development permit submittal. We just had a couple of loose ends with wrapping up traffic reports, some finalizing things with civil and the voluminous application paperwork and things like that that need to be included in that submittal. In parallel to that remains our regulatory process. So we need to get, we only have one bridge now over the northern ditch, the ephemeral drainage, but that will be reviewed through CDFW is the only process. So we don't need to process anything through the Army Corps.
Yeah.
So any questions?
I'm just gonna jump in on that because, and then I noticed that one of the other things that's happened, and it's one of the things that I was really proud of about this park. I understand it has to be done, but we've eliminated the habitat restoration and the riparian corridor for the main drainage at the bottom of Portola. And I know that if we did it, it would then it would have to have a buffer out into the dirt parking lot. But I'm sad about that. Yeah. And I guess it also makes it easier because we don't need a Corps of Engineers permit. But
Yes.
Just so it's not just the parking that's been lost, it's also an environmental change to this property that I thought was going to be very beneficial. And then one last thing, just a comment, which is that I was never a huge fan of the Village Green with all the proposed turf, but it was partly there because the vision of the people who saved this park from development and worked very hard many years ago was Marina Green. They wanted the entire site to be turf grass, to be turf. And so this was kind of a recognition of their influence. And they came and testified. It wasn't as if, but that was a reflection of them. So, I mean, I can live with this. And we're going to have a park sooner or eat more easily because we're going to have more money. So I probably shouldn't have jumped in first, but who else would like to speak?
When I went back and looked at, Tom, you mentioned some of the commenting has been about parking. And I went back and looked at, we asked in the 2019 survey several questions about parking. Do you want more? Do you want less? Do you want the same? Do you want none? And it's interesting that when you look at the favorability, the positives minus the negatives, the same amount of parking was the only positive response. It was plus 46 points positive. And less parking was 29 points negative, but more parking was even more negative at 44 points. But that was before we knew anything about the bike lane project eliminating the highway traffic. And although there will be a new parking lot down on the other side of Sam's, I think, our lifelong surfers are going to come looking for parking where they came and looked for parking. So if we didn't leave the dirt lot, what would happen is, and if we only had a road, is the cars that are used to parking there now or used to parking on the highway and now will come that way would end up leaking onto Portola and onto Santiago and onto Avenue Alhambra, which is what happened during the pandemic when highway parking was blocked off. And so that was one of the things that the neighborhood was very concerned about. And when the Harbor District was proposing their lots at the other end of the Burnham Strip at the public meeting, that was what a lot of people brought up. We don't want highway traffic, it was in the comments from our survey as well, coming into the neighborhood. And that is one of the densest, apartment and duplex part of El Granada. It's great, it's zoned that way. And taking up the street parking. So I think it is important and generous of GCSD just to say, okay, we'll leave that out of the park so that there is a place for some of that highway parking to come to, and it won't be branching out into the neighborhood. My one concern actually as a resident who comes and goes from the neighborhood through that intersection is I think Caltrans and the county will need to work together to do one of those don't block this area at Obispo Road. Because if people are coming in to the neighborhood, either left turn from the highway or right turn from the highway, and trying to make that immediate left, it's frequently blocked because traffic is waiting, on Coronado. And so it's just a place where there already is traffic jams, and I don't think either Coastside Commission or Caltrans took that into account. No traffic study for this part of their proposal, and they don't really seem to care, which is about the nicest way I can say that. But I think it will impact the neighborhood in a negative way, although if the park is farther down, it won't be because of the park. So I'm glad we're leaving it because I think the neighborhood will need it to absorb some of that off-street parking. But I'm still have a concern that I may just write to Caltrans, and I would encourage people to write to Caltrans and Coastal Commission about what the impact will be on the traffic for that already very busy and congested intersection.
It's okay.
I just wanted to say thank you for being so proactive around realizing this was going to become a real issue for us if we didn't address it head on. So, I mean, it's not an ideal solution, but it does help us get, I mean, I can't even tell you in the last month how many people are like, hey, by the way, so is this ever happening? So to know that we've been proactive and working to help make sure that this does help and remove barriers, I just want to say thank you for that to the two of you, or to who you represent.
I'll give Hope more of the credit here.
The three of you.
We came out of one of the meetings and you said, we've been kicking this can down the road for a while, and Hope took the horse by the reins and set up the meeting and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
and I want to add a little insight onto Hope's report if I could. We look at this plan and we kind of pretend that we have choices sometimes. And the reality is, whereas the guy from the Coastal Commission was pretty strong-willed and actually took it to Caltrans a little bit, I think, during the meeting, he basically said, you guys are that parking's been there 50 years. And I said at one point in time, look, it's unfair for us to have to provide parking for Surfers Beach at State or Beach and whatnot. But I live in the real world and I know we have to, and we've all known it's parking since the start of this project. So,
Yeah. Well, I think we were planning to perhaps start the park, even just leaving it for a later phase, but now
To see what happened, yeah.
if in 20 years, somebody wants to make some changes.
right.
What's going to happen if there's enough erosion in the lot to make it almost unusable? Are we going to be responsible for maintaining that?
Well, it's at the end of the day, it's still our lot, right?
But wouldn't we have to get a coastal permit to do any work?
Well, yeah.
I wonder if they would provide an exemption for something.
For maintenance.
Yeah.
There's
There's a
you
lot.
don't need a CDP for maintenance.
Right.
Okay.
Do they have a cubic yardage of dirt moving that you know of? No?
Not that I know of.
It's only gonna be minor.
There's one more thing I thought of that we
Can give you a
should
chance.
think about between now and when we actually can move the skate ramp. And that's, I am guessing that there will be more traffic coming in and out of that lot, particularly on weekends and sunny weekends, than there is now because of the lack of street parking. And if we have to move our logs so that you can pass through, we should think about creating a bit more of a barrier around the skate ramp to protect that area and the kids from cars coming and going around it, and give it a little bit more of a buffer
Before we move, you're saying.
before it moves, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Matt, did you want to comment?
Oh, sure. Although you experienced some coercion, I think in the end, you made a lot of people in El Granada happy with the changes. Skateboarders, of course, are going to be some of the highest usage, and to have more space. I appreciate you taking feedback and incorporating it. And I think, well, I know the largest number of people and the loudest critics of the whole park idea was parking. We don't have enough parking. They're getting rid of the lot. And so in the latest version, that solution was addressed, even though it wasn't entirely voluntary. But I think a lot of the people that were down on park design are going to be more supportive now.
Great. One more question before we take a question from the screen. I'm still not clear exactly how the access to the Caltrans parking is going to happen. Are people, are they really going to be blocked off from accessing it from the highway? So anyone who wants to park in that lot has to come around the dirt lot? That just seems unreasonable burden.
It's protecting the bike lane.
Yeah, it does.
I'll do a play on Chris Peterson. Have you met Caltrans? Because when this maybe more background than you need, but when we went into that meeting, we assumed Caltrans was like a suitor to us and they really wanted our parking lot. And it turns out during the meeting, they said, we're Caltrans. If we take over the parking lot, we have to put parking lights, pavement, all the stuff nobody wants. So we walked into the meeting with one assumption, very quickly found out they don't want it because it costs them money and they would face opposition. So.
Can I ask you? Yeah, I'm gonna call on you next. Yeah. Any more questions for Tom? No, thank you. Well, I mean, you can answer questions from, our next speaker is Brigitte Bauer on this item.
Oh, I want to point to one of the photos.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, can you?
There's a hand raised on the Zoom too.
Yeah, I know. It's in.
One that one where you could see the right of way.
Can you come up to the, it's because there's a microphone.
Okay. Is it this on my time or then not this?
Tom, can you bring up the?
Yeah.
We won't start.
No,
If it's the renderings, I wouldn't put too much stock into them. They are schematic.
Okay,
Yeah, reality.
okay, because like you said, it looks very weird that people are gonna drive in, come to the right of way, and then somehow be able to turn around inside that right of way and get out. What? And then it just feels like the park should have some barrier. You don't want this traffic and parking next to the park. I mean, it blows my mind.
It's just really the whole dirt lot
Well,
as
there's
it is
a-
now without the log barriers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I mean, the dirt lot is wide open.
yeah, and used to be.
Yeah, but they're gonna drive in and park, how far along the highway are they gonna be parking? Where does this
Is it just?
right of way in? I mean, are they gonna park like they do now all the way up to the
Really?
hotel,
No, there's
basically?
there's a ditch there.
Yeah,
They can't drive over the
They
ditch.
can't drive over the ditch.
There's no, the net effect is there's no change to the area of where there's gravel right now.
Yeah,
There is no change.
okay, but they can drive in and park and then drive out. This is gonna work.
I mean, they do now. I think, I guess I'm not.
And they're gonna have a
The logs will go away.
Oh, they can't drive in from the highway. They
Yeah, I
have to
know.
come down over.
Yeah, I
the
know,
ditch.
but then they have to go in there and they have this right of way where they're gonna be parking plus, turning around to get out.
But that's how it is now.
It's the right of way plus the existing dirt lot. There won't be any more barrier between the dirt lot and the right of way. It'll just
So
be that
that-
big
that-
square.
Okay, I wish I could see it.
You have
I
it.
mean, I don't. We didn't model the dirt lot in the renderings because we're not doing anything. But, I mean, this is the dirt lot.
Yeah, but
We're
you
not
say
doing-
that they're driving in.
No,
here.
no, I'm not. There's no change. Just the way it is right now,
How are they
It's- it
getting
will
to
be-
the right of way?
just like they do now. They drive in through the dirt lot and people park there, just like they park here.
And the logs will go away.
Oh, no, she was.
Nobody can.
Oh,
continue
it's
to use-
just this little area
No,
here.
it's this whole area, the entire area that's gravel right now is
Okay,
going to stay gravel.
No distinction between the right of way and the rest of the dirt lot.
okay, I saw them sort of driving along here, and like, what? Okay,
And technically, they'll have more room eventually when those K ramps come,
Yeah,
right? So that, how many more spaces would that even allow? Do we know?
probably 4 or 5.
Oh, okay.
and Caltrans had talked about having almost like an access easement across our dirt lot to there and kind of going, why?
Yeah,
And not just leave it as it is.
similar to Brigitte, what Caltrans first asked for
yeah,
was the road in, and they would have to do just like you said. What
yeah,
we're doing instead is saying, forget that, we'll just leave the dirt lot wide open. which is easier.
Okay. Okay, first of all, this thing. I mean, I thought, the coastal commission were the nice guys. It's like, I learned that like, nice little plan you have there, guys. Would be sad if something happened to it. What's
It's
this?
more or less what they.
Okay, and then, but I saw this, I got this from the NCC today, it's May 15th. But here they say that, they don't say that, you are gonna give up land, they say that you may not.
They also say, depending on a future owner in that, so it's
So
just
it's
like, we'll have to look at that.
And
I got a
haven't
chance to
seen
read
this
that.
February thing
Yeah,
from Caltrans, because it's like, here they say that it's great to have this C4 lot. Because you have 0.3 miles to get to surface beach. Yes, I would understand. You get to the riprap. Good luck getting down there unless you're a surfer, because they actually do it. Yeah, it's actually, I mean, it's just, and then they say that you have public, where's the public outreach and stuff? The only thing they use is like, oh, you've raised your hand when Ray Muller said you can either have the Burnham Strip or you can have C4.
right.
I mean, he tricked us. That's just blatantly patronizing to tell us we have two choices.
Yeah. You need to wrap
And
up.
this is, this isn't part of our project, so
Yeah.
I don't want to go too far away.
Yeah, you need to wrap up.
Okay,
We have another item on.
okay, fine. I'll send you a letter.
Thank you very much.
There's still someone's number.
Well, I'm gonna go to Dan because you didn't turn this up, but then you can speak. Dan,
Yes, can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So, well, I'll start out by saying I'm cautiously very pleased from what I heard from I'll call him consultant, architect, and it sounds like most of the board agrees with going with this direction of keeping the existing informal parking lot as is, and then basically kind of sharing the space with Caltrans. And I think that's wonderful. I think that's the most sensible, best thing to do. And I just wanted to maybe just remind everybody that the fact that there's this wide open entrance off of Obispo, the wider of any opening makes it easier for cars to, yes, it's a busy road, and by getting in and out, the more options you have, if there's a car coming, well, I can drive forward another 40 feet and then turn instead of having to be locked in and only, a narrow driveway. So it sounds like it's going to stay the way it is, and potentially some minor informal planting or whatever, eventually some variance or exception on minor grading, as needed. I think Mother Nature will eventually kind of keep it somewhat level as long as we keep the four-wheel drivers out of there from doing donuts and making the ditches deeper. I've been here 37 years, so I know that is one of the problems. It's hard to enforce, but when there's a puddle, you got some young kid with a four-wheel drive truck, and oh boy, that's a magnet right there. They just go in there. Huh? Am I being interrupted? Am I done or what?
No, sorry.
Truck driving by.
It was very noisy,
It
so
was one of those kids who just.
A four-wheeler truck.
We're talking about that.
Well, there's I was a kid once too, but I didn't do that much bad, I don't think. I lived through it and I'm here today. So anyway, so I'm thankful. I want to add also that it's my personal strong opinion that that they should not lose the side of the highway parking, especially right there near the surface, yes, there's some areas where there's no room after the bike lanes. Yes, there will be some areas that there will be limited room, but this particular area, there's plenty of room. Park outside of the bike lane and off through on the shoulder. Let me just quickly say that, Lisa Ketchum brought this question up to Caltrans at the Planning Commission when they gave the CDP to Caltrans, and they were not able to answer. But they did say that they were going to put no parking signs in that area. Why just that area?
Your time is up.
And then that's a Caltrans issue as well, so.
A lot of questions. Well, hey, we're all a community and we all are going to suffer, and we're going to lose this perfect, beautiful spot where you can pull off the side of the road and see the ocean with no view, with a great view. So
We can't, we have to follow the rules, Dan, sorry.
Yes, but I just want to make one comment and then, one problem I see is that it's going to be hard to access the restroom that we're putting in from the parking lots. And one of the benefits was that people use that grove of willows as a bathroom. We all know that. And this is going to make that continue to happen. So that makes me sad. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, so questions. I think Nancy brings up a very valid point. I go down that same thoroughfare. It is extremely annoying. At one point, you can't even move coming down the hill. And it's shocking to me that Half Moon Bay, the city of Half Moon Bay, promotes parking for surfers beach in the residential areas of El Granada. As GCSD, I hope that maybe you guys could look into that and maybe speak to Deborah about removing that from the website. Officially for all the other,
Right, they do have that.
they took it down. Okay.
No, she's saying you're right.
Because they state clearly that excess or overflow parking for surfers beach is in the residential area of El Granada. I think that is unfair and not something that we should
It's on Half Moon Bay's website.
not address. I brought it to Hope's attention.
Oh, then Hope did talk to them about it, yeah.
In addition to that, I think that as somebody who has been in favor of this community center for 10 years, who with my husband has knocked on doors and then by myself for the last survey knocked on doors, I just want to do something that I don't think probably happens enough, but to thank GCSD and staff for being as transparent, as offering as many chances for the community to be involved. I'm sure that after this meeting, people are going to, have more questions, but I think that the transparency on this project has made it so that community members who have been on board from 10 years ago are still on board now, and even more people are on board. So kudos to you. I think you guys have done a great job.
Thank you very much. Now the thing I hear the most is, when is it going to happen? Which is nice.
So we need a motion.
Yes, we need a motion.
So I move that we approve the plan updates as they've been presented this evening on the Granada Community Park and Recreation Center.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Let's have a roll call just because it's important.
Okay. I'd like a roll call.
Director Allen,
Yes.
Director Randall,
Aye.
Director Dye,
Aye.
Director Marsh.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Yeah. And when do you think it's going to go into the county?
Tomorrow.
It's already there. It's already there. You've already proved it.
The only hard one.
Right now. I'll be there when they open. My expectation is early next month. We just need to get the graphic work all wrapped up. And now that you've approved it, the civil can go forth in earnest with their adjustments.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your hard work in this project. You've been really guiding force since the beginning. And I think we're very lucky that we connected with you on this project. So we're getting.
We also have, it's Mike Wasserman, he's our construction manager.
Would you like to
From
say a few words?
CPM,
Or
and I just wanted to introduce him, and he's here to observe.
Okay, great.
Looking forward to work on this project, very excited.
And you're going to be, tell us, just, can you give us a brief description of what you'll be doing? I know we read your contract, but.
Yeah, hi, so I'm Mike Wasserman with Capital Program Management. We'll be your owner's rep, project manager, construction manager. And so our role is to help guide through the whole process of working very closely with Tom and his team on getting all the documents approved, getting all the necessary permits, and then working on figuring out, how much this is all going to cost. We'll be back next month with that. It'll be part of our agenda on the board to present an initial preliminary budget. And we'll have to start talking about cash flow and figure out how to finance portions of it, and perhaps a phased approach to help with the cash flow. And then we'll be, of course, figuring out, putting the project out to bid and helping ensure a smooth construction project.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So thanks.
Great. Right, anything else? All right, my agenda. Moving on to report on planned recreation program events.
Yeah, so just quickly, we've had, continue to have great events happening. Our chair yoga class now is almost maxed out in here on Wednesdays, which is exciting. Recology quarterly recycling, they had 190 happy customers. Sound baths continuing. We did our spring fest, and Director Dye came and saw us while we were there. We had a craft for the kids and got to chat with lots of people. And it was our first time getting to use our new pop-up tent, so that was very exciting. And there was a nature walk in May as well with 11 attendees. Upcoming, we have a Deer Creek walk that Director Dye is going to be leading with Clifford Herman.
Yes.
That's Clifton.
Yeah.
Clifton. From RCD, he's going to lead that along with Director Dye. Our session 3 sewing just started yesterday. We're going to have a drawing class coming up, and then we'll have our next Ecology quarterly recycling in July, and that will be with the paper shredding.
All right.
I have a question. Has there been any thought or thinking around the getting into the building?
Yes, so we actually spoke with, I just sent an email letter over to Candace, and she has her last day of school is June 26th. She's gonna need some time to get moved out of there, and so we let her know that I think it's July 24th. We're gonna let her just kind of stay through July to get herself packed up and get out of there. So we'll be taking over the utilities starting July 1. And then while she's packing up, and then hopefully she'll be out before that, but we wanted to give her ample time so that she's not feeling rushed. And it's unclear, I'm not sure if she has plans for all the furniture. There was an agreement that was made years ago that she could keep all the furnishings inside, because the idea was that she'd be opening another preschool somewhere.
We bought the furniture with the building,
Right.
so she never owned it was in her lease that she never owned the furniture, but we offered it to her to help make it easy for her to go to a new place, because we wouldn't need it anyway.
And so depending on, the state of the building and whether or not we can get permission to start using it, we might be able to start offering some programming in that space prior to starting construction.
And if that's the case, are we gonna do anything like, I don't know what the right word is, repair, refurbishing, cleaning up?
Until we get in there and see it, I don't really know. I mean,
Okay.
I don't even know that there are adult-sized toilets in there,
Right. There's one.
I know that
There's one.
there's a powder room just inside the office door.
Yeah, so I mean, there would, it's gonna be a matter of weighing whether or not
It's worth.
temporary renovations are worth it, or if we just want to wait, and some of that will be determined by given budgets and prices.
Question?
Yeah, about the display with the park design that we stapled up. I noticed it was hanging off. Was that wind or vandalism?
I think it was wind. And I'm glad you said that. I've been out of town for the first half of this week, but I'll bring my staple gun.
Well, we should really put the new plan up.
Good point.
Just draw an X through the old. Or just put a big post-it note, nothing to see.
Parking stays.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Yeah.
I actually, when I drove by it this morning, but I was kind of already turning, it almost looked like something had been marked on there, like maybe there had been some vandalism, so I need to look at it.
There was a really windy night and two people mentioned that their signs in their yards had flown off and like were a block away, so.
We had a couple of those, like,
Yeah, I had better go and blow off.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It's
So-
blaming on the wind.
I think we should, this is an approved plan that we'll be submitting. I mean, I know it costs money to get a new plan, but I think it's important. I don't know how many people actually go look at it, but the fact that the latest plan is there to me is important. So,
They see movement.
yeah, should we go ahead and do a new
I mean,
map?
I can certainly put another order in. I think the last time it was about $500 to replace this.
I think we should do that. I really do. I think it's a communication with community.
I mean, I think there are plenty of people who would see the parking being left and that would probably make them pretty.
They're happy.
It's not a state of donating property.
And so one more random question, but how's the video camera situation going?
It's fine. I mean,
It's working out,
Yeah. So,
live action.
I think the willows might need to be trimmed. They were obscuring part of the sign.
yeah,
Yeah,
we do. We obviously can't trim them very far, but we can certainly keep them from going on the sign. So I'll bring my staple gun and my loppers
And a light.
and a ladder.
not really,
Joel Tree.
not really in your job description, but thank you. All right, moving on. It's draft sewer authority Midco side fiscal year 2026-27 general budget and associated resolution of approval.
AKA the fun stuff, right? So this is the general budget. Right after that, we have the collection budget. It's a separate budget. This is the exact same budget your board saw at our last meeting and went through in detail, so I won't go through it in detail again. Big things that came out of the last meeting were some direction to staff to draft a resolution with language in it that said, hey, if we give you $3 million for the Montana Force Main, you can't spend 2.5 of it elsewhere. You've got to focus on the project. So we included a resolution to that effect in this packet, and now we've provided a revised draft of that here, which softens the language a little bit because we don't like to make conditional approvals that, because two other agencies have to approve as well. So soften the language, and I'll let Nancy take over from here and explain her events at the finance committee meeting, some of which led to this. We were already looking at it before, some of which led to this language. We don't want to be the problem, we want to be part of the solution. So
I'm not sure when we put caveat then what has to happen at Sam and whether it has to go around all the houses again. But we wanted to get actually to the same place. With the kind of negotiated solution with the finance committee, with the two other agencies as well as Kitchen. The budget itself, we haven't really had a problem.
You just recap the problem we're trying to solve for the community, for anybody watching that. There's a few people.
It's just there. Our concern, and we've been working on this since about last September between Barbara and Chuck and I. Barbara's been actually pushing on the thing that is the main problem for the last, how long have you been on it?
Oh, 6 years.
6 years. But we have some co-conspirators now on making some changes. Our concern is not with the budget and how the budget is structured. There's a lot of detail in the budget. And our concern is not necessarily tracking. It's where things are tracked and how they're made visible to whom. So the budget has 4 sections. There are line item detail in each of those 4 sections. And in the infrastructure section, which is primarily where our concerns have been, when you look at the budget page that gets printed out of the budget system, and it's on page, I'll give you the page number. It's on page 54 in the pack. There's one line that says infrastructure, but there are line items behind that number. Because when you look at the rest of the packet, you'll see there are 3 projects listed, and each of them has a number assigned to it. And in fact, the accountants put a project code for that project in the system and give it a budget. So those are budgeted line items. We have not had a consistent view, even across the member agencies, about whether the infrastructure budget is one line item that you manage as a bucket, or it has specific project line items, which we believe because they are written that way in the budget that we approve, and managed as such. So the practice up to the end of this fiscal year has been to use that as long as the expense is for infrastructure, and all of the expenditures have been for infrastructure, then as long as we don't go over that number, we're okay within budget. Our view, and I think as of our finance committee today, at least Paul Nagingas shares this view from Half Moon Bay, is if we have line items for specific projects, we need to manage those as discrete line items, and that budget should only be used for that project. So there are several problems we've been trying to solve. One is the board only sees the performance versus budget at the unified level once a quarter. There is tracking at a very detailed level for each project that has been approved by the board since 2021. And it actually gives how much was budgeted. It's now is formatted. Chuck worked with George on changing the format. What we have spent on that project in each year, the total to date, where it is versus its original budget, and how much we think there is to go for average projects so that we can see overages coming. And on all the completed projects, it shows what was actually spent versus budget. Completed projects, 19 of the 19 have been completed out of the last 5 years worth of project. There are 12 still active. 11 of those 19 came within 10% of their budget. The others, 8 of the 19, might have been 50% over budget to 500% over budget. As Paul said today, if you end up that much over budget, you need to look at how you budgeted in the first place. Point taken. Chuck says that at every meeting. So if you wanted to know, your point was represented. So we've tried to solve a few things. One is the whole board doesn't see this level of detail. Only the finance committee sees the project level detail. And the board only sees the line items for the 4 divisions in the budget: administrative, and environment, and infrastructure, once a quarter, and that infrastructure line is a one line. So we've been working with the finance committee, Chuck and I, since January, every month, kind of going layer by layer on how we improve visibility and the detail that goes to the board. And really the last big thing we're working on today is what do we do about projects that are exceeding their original budget, and where does that money come from? So up to now, that money has come from future projects that we funded but haven't needed the money yet. So we've talked already about last year, we budgeted $3 million for the force main. $500,000 was spent on the force main. We probably shouldn't have budgeted that way in the first place. We should have only budgeted for what we needed in that year. The other $2.5 million was spent, $500,000 on actually non-project infrastructure that gets capitalized, which has never, to George's, the CFO's memory, ever been budgeted anywhere, and it always should have been. So, that was one problem we have to solve. And then on the CIP projects themselves, as they have gone over budget, needed more money, they've basically been getting donations from future projects. And we think that money was ring-fenced for that project. So the problem so let me just go through the changes that we're making in reporting, and then get to the financial management, which is where we got to today in what was supposed to be a 1-hour finance meeting that took 2 hours. But I think we came out in good agreement about what the problem is we're trying to solve, and how we're going to solve it, with Paul Nagingas and Catherine Slater-Carter looking in the eye and Kitchen and saying, can we make this work? And if we can make this work, and I will talk to Chuck about making the change that he's already made in the thing to make it less draconian in language, because we're going to do it because we agreed to it already. So what we've agreed so far in the changes for next year is that that non-project repairs and maintenance of the facility that has to be done as issues come up will get its own budget. It will sit in the treatment division. It's in the budget, in the packet. I think it's line 21. It says equipment, and there's $417,000 there. That annual, that's not an unusual amount for a plant that size. Over the last 5 years, it has varied from about 400,000 to the big flood year, it was 1.6 million. And
Some of which they got back.
some of which they got back from FEMA. This year, where they're doing a lot of work on updating the electrical panels, which are starting to fail, they're 26 years old. That's going to be like $1 million. So this is a very big year for those incidental things. It needs its own budget. So it will get its own budget next year. All agreed, it's in the budget. Secondly, in the infrastructure, where an infrastructure project is rolling into the new year, and we can see it's going to exhaust its budget and needs more, we will budget for it in the new year. There are 3 such items in the budget you see in the packet. $450,000 for the effluent pumps, $100,000 for a pump at Montera, and $50,000 for a pump at the Portola station. Those were all budgeted in 21 and 22. They're finally getting to completion, but they've exhausted their budget. They've probably even used some of the Montera force main budget. And so we said, if you need more, we'll budget more. But you need to, that's part of ring fencing and managing each account discreetly. So we've given it more. There are a few more projects. I said, Kishan, you had your chance. I asked you directly, do you need any more money for any of those ongoing projects? He says, I think we can manage them. But I said, if we get to mid-year budget review and you need more money, you need to ask for it then, because we're going to have a mid-year budget correction this year. So we've agreed in principle there that we will manage the budget for those projects discreetly. That was a good agreement. On monthly financial reports to the board, they will now get that 1-page summary that is in the budget every month. So we will see, at least numerically, the numbers variance to budget every month. And they will get something that has never gone to the full board, which is the combined CIP project report that shows the variance project by project going back to 2021 of all the active projects and where they are versus the funds they have available. And if they need more funds, we'll see that for the full board every month. So we will see things coming better than we had before. The detail that Kishan does typically on the quarters, where he gives a narrative for those things that are more than 10%, the line items that are more than 10% variance from budget, he will still do that. That will be quarterly. And the other thing we will now get quarterly to the whole board is a new report that Chuck worked with George on that will give us, of that $1 million we're spending this year on the non-project CIP, what are we spending it on? And it's lots of little expenses. It takes a little more work to get that project together, that detail together, because those things don't have project codes in the system. So we agreed we'll ask George to do that one quarterly, but we will see what are all the little projects going on and how much are we spending on them. So we'll get detail behind that $417,000 that we have in the budget this year. Now, everything that we are spending is visible to the board, and not just in the finance committee. And we are getting a new report we never saw before that gives us that level of detail. So big wins all across the board on that. Today, the big one that we got to is, okay, we agreed at the end of last month's meeting that we're going to eliminate the language that comes up in board meetings where Kishan comes and says, I need $150,000 more for this project. That has to come to the board for an approval because it's beyond its budget. It's only been things over 50,000 that have come to the board for that. And the board will say, and he'll say, I have the money in the budget.
Even when I ask, where's the money gonna come from? He says, oh,
I have it. And what he has is that one line that has 3.6 million on it. He doesn't have a specific budget for that thing. And so if we now say, we want to make sure that we provide money for that specific thing, and you can't transfer between projects. In fact, in the finance system, even though transfers or reallocations between projects have been discussed, sometimes he says, I'm going to take it from the money that we had reserved for the emergency generator. Nothing happens in the finance system to track that.
Mm.
You could be using that same money over and over and over again. There is no tracking. So it gets spent, and that's how we have managed to spend, as we said last time, 21 million invested into this plant in the last 5 years. Great, it's all gone into infrastructure. None has gone to, trips to Rio de Janeiro. None has gone into frivolous things. You walk through the plant, you see many bright, shiny objects. The plant has been renewed and is running well. That's good. It's just that we only budgeted 15, not 21 for those. 4 of that is actually this thing we never budgeted anywhere. In the last 5 years, we spent 4.2 million on this non-project CIP that we will now budget. So problem solved. So our big discussion today kind of went back to, well, why not transfer between things? One reason is the finance guys really can't do it. It's not the way the finance system works.
And nobody does this.
Nobody does it that way.
Yeah.
It's their tracking is well, why can't we just treat this like a bucket? Because we budget it and we tell the world we're budgeting it by line. And we had to go through, let's all get to agreement on what the problem is. And so that was an hour today that sometimes got testy, sometimes got creative, but we got there. So we said, okay, if we get to the point where Kitchen needs more money, the board has to approve. Where do we get that money? And one of the things that they have been doing when it's small amounts that the board hasn't said have to come to the board. At some point, the board said, bring me things over 50,000, but 10s, 20s, you have some flexibility. That's been coming out of either reserves or about line item budgets for other projects. Now we're saying those are off limits. And at this point, there's no reserve left above the minimum they have to keep. So our first agreement in principle at the end of 2 hours, we got to agreements in principle with Catherine and Paul and Kishan and George and me. I said, if we can go forward with this agreement and at our next meeting in June, we will bottom out a lot of the details and take them to the board for approval. We got agreement all around. We will make sure, and we might have to adjust the budget to create this at the beginning of each year. Kishan will have a reserve fund for all of those little spends. It might be a percentage of the infrastructure budget. Actually, the projects that have gone over, 11 of them have gone over by 10% or less, so maybe 10% is a reasonable number, but we didn't bottom that out. We will come up with a proposal for how much reserve above its minimum required Sam should start the year with. It's not a blank check. Well, it is a bit of a blank check, but it's not really reasonable for him to come to the board every month with, I need another 5,000 for this one. I need another 10,000 to pay this PO. I need this. It's reasonable for the GM to have some flexibility to work with. We agreed that. What do we do with the ones that are big? Still, Kishan will do what he's been doing. He'll bring them to the board and say, I have this project. It's in process and it needs more money. That will go, depending on the timing and the urgency of progressing it, will go one of 2 ways. We will either agree to do, and all of the agencies have to get better about saying, okay, we will do a mid-year budget correction, change the assessments from that point forward for the agencies, so all the agencies give him a little bit more money every month to cover that overage. Or if it's like the effluent pumps where you can push the timing so it can hit the next year's budget, we'll put it in the next year's budget. So the only new thing is, for the things that really need to be done and can't wait till next year's budget, instead of getting a donation from another project, we will get a donation from the agencies to cover it. There have been at various times over the long history of SAM, pushback over doing, they're very traumatized about ever asking for a mid-year budget correction. I looked at my 2 partners and said, can we make this okay with each of the agencies that occasionally we'll have a mid-year budget correction? So when we look at the ones that have been over 50,000, like way over budget, in the last 5 years, there have been 8. And we have 30 projects going. We won't have 30 projects going at once in the future. We have replaced just about every moving part in that plant. It's more likely to be what is more normal, which is like 1 or 2. So each year we might have 1. that comes and will need that correction and more funding. So when we agreed on principle on that, I agreed that I will come to our board and say, can we drop, Chuck has already given each of you a draft, that second point in the resolution that was very kind of heavy-handed, that neither the staff nor the SAM board can make any reallocations or any changes in the budgets on these lines. It was kind of heavy-handed. And there was one whereas where that was repeated. So he's modified those two. Now that I have built some understanding and, it takes getting to this, as we talked about it the last time, you have to get to the same plane of understanding so that you're using the same language for the same thing, agree to solve the problem together and build some trust in order to do that. So this is a little bit of test of, did we build enough trust today to take that language out of our resolution? And I got a look in the eyes and a yes from all the parties in the room. So I'd like to take a risk that when I go to the finance meeting in June, I can bring them back to that same place and we just go on from there. Kishan was smiling at the end of the meeting. Catherine said, as long as we do the things that really need to be done, and there's a slightly different way to do it, I'm okay. Paul said, good. So
Thank you, Nancy, for all your hard work on this. You've done a great job. Whew. We have an extra copy of this resolution, Andy, for the public. Since, yeah.
Yeah, and an improvement.
So, yeah, Chuck, would you like to add?
Let me add, yes.
We just-
Oh, change, yeah. Let me add a few things to it. I find it, I won't say humorous, because I find a lot of humor. The fact that we had to work this hard and the complications and all this kind of stuff, which is pretty straightforward. That is what it is. It's just funny, we're always looking at mid-year budget adjustments up, not down, but, right?
Interesting, yeah.
And,
Never occurred to me.
I
Hopefully we'll get better at the initial budget,
Right.
now that Paul is on that.
And I was going to bring up Paul's point. One of my directors down in my Rancho district actually asked me when I presented the capital plan, he said, well, I assume these are just big, broad, rough numbers. And I went, no, well, I was taken aback, like, no, what are you talking about? I'm getting bids. And that's what these are based on. And I think we need more of that at SAM. So, because that is a problem with the budgeting.
I think one of the challenges that has been a challenge throughout this discussion is not a challenge for us because we have the legal counsel who is the most conversant in every line of our JPA. And one of the challenges is, Bill will weigh in if we're going astray and bring us back and go through the language and, we adhere to it. That doesn't happen in SAM board. The general counsel, we can have a discussion and they had discussions every time about reallocating money or transferring money or moving it around between these items, never challenged. And the legal counsels for all the member agencies don't read the same words the same way. That's a challenge in adhering to the letter of the law as Bill would like us to adhere to the letter of law, which would be at the 5,000, 10,000, every bit. The thing says, if you're going to go over budget,
This
on any designation or limitation, you will have the unanimous vote of the board. And I think we could probably spend 3 years whittling about different understanding what designation and limitations mean, because that's not language we use in budgeting. So I think we're being pragmatic and, not micromanage.
Well, we
The
remove
project's
the
ongoing?
condition of approval, which is the big thing. So on this resolution, there's kind of two parts. One is Bill quotes the actual language in the JPA. This is not just how we feel. This is the actual language in the JPA. And then the bottom of page 1, we say, hey, we gave you this much money. Here's where you spent it. Top of page 2, we do it for the next fiscal year. Gave you this much money. Here's how you spent it. You've got to adhere to the things of the JPA.
I think the language is really good. Go ahead.
I have a question. One of the letters actually is from Delia. I thought one of their points raised an interesting question for me. As we think about this, that setting the parameters around budget and pivoting when, overages are spending, putting those processes in place, I think are really meaningful. What about like sort of downstream accountability for like the number of overages or the number of sort of revisions that might be needing to be made at the GM level and holding the GM accountable for proper budgeting in the first place and proper allocation and management of projects. Like, is any of that conversation being had?
Yeah, we do, every summer, the board does a review of the GM. This, as from my history, it is like pulling teeth sometimes to get all of the board members to respond, and we made it a very simple questionnaire. And still, I think 4 of the 6, you can guess which 2, revised, checked a box on meets or not meets expectations and added no commentary. And it's very hard to give the GM meaningful feedback without any meaningful commentary. But I think the difference this year is we've had a lot of conversation about this extra $6.5 million that the board never really got a good look at. The visibility was not great, and we're changing that visibility. But up to us, we will have a discussion at the GM review about, as Paul said, if you need another $300,000 for a $200,000 project, you didn't budget right. About the planning, was it ever reasonable to do budget for 17 projects in 1 year? When it has taken now, we're going into the 6th year of getting those projects done. So we've had a little discussion at the operations committee about planning, budgeting, and financial management as being an area that needs work. And I think with all of now the more open discussion we've had, we may have, it's up to the whole board. Remember, SAM is not just the staff, it's us. And it's our counterparts in member agencies. So it's up to us and our counterparts to be SAM and work on behalf of SAM and make that happen.
Yeah, I guess I just pushing a little further, I think that there's an opportunity to kind of move from more of a subjective or qualitative, like meets expectations, doesn't, based on a board's point of view or perspective or member's point of view or perspective, versus just the numbers, the analytics, like a report card or a dashboard that says sort of how well were projects executed on budget, how many were off budget, how many are off track, like creating more rigor around the quantitative aspect of his performance or the SAM's performance at the GM's accountability level, right?
Yeah, I think now that we have agreed, at least across the finance committee, TBD of the board, that we should be managing projects line by line and budget by budget. We've not had that agreement before.
Agree, yeah.
But now that we have that agreement, I agree with you, that should be part of the report card. That is a third or more of the SAM budget.
Yeah.
And we should have that.
Yeah.
The lines in the administration, there are pluses and minuses. They do focus more on manage the pluses and minuses, so you come out close on the bottom. The one that really has caused most of the issue, if we just focus on the big themes for now, is the infrastructure budget and how we manage infrastructure. So we just needed to clean that up to give ourselves a basis.
For sure, yeah. That's what was inspiring for me, was just thinking this is a springboard opportunity almost to create a dashboard, to create red, yellow, green, to do stuff that kind of creates more rigor around some of this, and then hopefully more accountability and clarity for the public to be able to see, Yeah.
Even clarity on expectations
Yeah.
of the GM.
Yeah.
And what.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, I think I really like all the whereases in this resolution, because it really sets out the case well for all the
Right.
changes that are being made. Before we move to really looking at it, I think we need to talk about the IPS project, because I don't know if the community knows, but we are expecting the final, the amount that the company that they hired to do a design build, what they will charge to do the entire project. And we're supposed to get that before the end of this month. I don't know if that's still on schedule. They need to be on schedule, because as people know, or may not know, but fact is that we're under a lawsuit settlement that the project has to be done by the end of next year. So while it says in our budget, which, we're jumping, but they're only budgeting for next year in this budget that we are going to be approving tonight, 4.2 million, is that what it is?
4.5.
4.25, which is, what,
3.600.
3.51.
thank you, I didn't have it at the top of my head. We will probably have to do a revision of the SAM budget that we are looking at within the next month to add another up to $10 million.
I'm gonna interrupt you.
Go ahead.
If we accept the design build, I don't want to make that an automatic.
I was gonna say that, yes,
Okay.
and if we don't accept it, then they have to put together a bid package, go out to bid, and that delays it. Our feeling is that the people who sued and got the settlement, if we are actively doing the project, have a contract to do it, and we miss the deadline, it's not that the financial penalties have not been all that great, and they have been reasonable, so we can extend it out, but and fortunately, I know we have our budget coming up next. We have some pretty robust reserves, and we are raising our rates only 5% a year. I know Montera's raising them 10% a year, and I think Half Moon Bay is about to raise them a lot.
They're about to do 218.
Yeah, so we tonight we're going to approve a budget, and the financial monitoring of that budget is going to be vastly improved if all this happens. But we also are going to then have to do, just to make it clear, a second budget with funding for doing the force meeting. So
That adjustment, if we accept the
yes,
Wire Hester bid, could come sooner so they can start the project sooner. We'll have to look also at cash flow, because once we agree a budget, once we agree this 11 million,
right.
the agencies pay their share 1/12 at a time each month. So that, the money for the force main will build up over time. And so we've got to watch, when do we actually start the project? I think Kishin estimated from start to finish will take 4 to 6 months, not 10 or 12 months. So there is time to go out to bid. And if we don't think it's competitive, we should, because that's what we should do. So we don't know exactly, if we knew that we were going to have a number, we might just have budgeted the 12 million. But we don't know when we're going to have a number. It could be in June, it could be in September, depending on if we have to go out to bid. So this is the number, what's in the budget is the number that was projected in the 5-year capital improvement plan, even though $3.5 million has been spent on other things.
There's no link to reality.
Yeah, it's kind of it's just like
it's the placeholder that we've been using for 3 years. So put it in the budget and we'll adjust it when we know the number.
But I do like the language in the resolution. And
Again, we just tried to, like you said, lay out our case, not,
so I think it's very strong about making the case that they have to be accountable. And one more thing I want to say is, I agree with you. I don't think anyone's taking trips to the Caribbean. I think there are some areas that community members have raised issues with perhaps more spending, but it has been so much more important to adjust to deal with these $1 million overages instead of focusing on those. But I do think there are some issues that are legitimate that have been raised. So, do we just need a motion, or is there?
Yeah, just
more to
need a
say?
motion to approve the resolution and approve the SAM general budget.
Yes, I know, I'm gonna call. Would you like?
Bill,
me?
You want to just clarify that it's approving the revised resolution as presented rather than the one in the packet?
Okay.
I guess first I want to say a couple of things. I am relieved that Nancy is on this board and there are all of these whereases. Because Sam's budget and watching it over the last 10 years, the last 5 years in particular, is like ping pong. Jen mentioned accountability in ways that are non-traditional, not relying on the board to give checks, because when you just check something and there's no input, there's no real critique. And the real critique is in the overages year after year after year. There hasn't been a year in the last, 5 years that there's not been overages, maybe even more. Your idea of holding somebody accountable based on that, this isn't just money. We're not just talking about like a budget willy-nilly. This is our money. This is our taxpayer dollars. Where everybody was screaming about the community center using taxpayer dollars. Not the case. This is our taxpayer dollars. To Nancy's or to Barbara's point, while there are huge overages that should be a concern, and I've talked to many community members in the last week who are talking about litigation, civil grand jury, community, outpouring, town hall requests, on and on and on. Things that I've tried to just keep myself very distant from so that I can come here tonight and read my statement. The small components, the small parts of it, where it's $2,000 to $4,000 for gift cards and flowers and dinners. I took 25 of my friends to Limon at Fisherman's Wharf for my birthday last year. They all got 2 drinks, full entree, hors d'oeuvres, dessert, and I spent $1,800. They have, I think, 15 or 16 staff members.
13
Okay, so there's a dinner
Plus-
line item in there that's almost $5,000.
elections.
So I feel like while there are things that are good for momentum and for SAM employees who do a really good job, they do hard work, and nobody's trying to take that away. But at the point where you're looking at these huge overages and somebody robbing Peter to pay Paul and then saying, oh, by the way, we didn't spend it on what the community thought it was going to be spent on or what you thought it was going to be spent on. We spent it on what we thought we needed to spend it on. That is BS. I would be fired from any job that I had if I were to treat a budget like that. I just want that to be very, very clear. So it does make that small little bit of flowers and parties and gifts like salt in a very big wound. If I could just read my statement. The community is going to expect a level of detail and excellence when it comes to project planning and budgets from GCSD. The example being the community center, which has had broad support, and you've been very transparent about everything budget-wise from day one. My hope is that you hold SAM's budget to the same standards that you hold your budget to. Considering the SAM request appears to account for more than half, I think it's 3/4 actually, of your annual budget.
75%.
Okay, I thought it was like in the 80s. I'm here to ask that you end approving budgets with no level of control and instead require the line items are not just a mere idea, but firm and to be held to in place or funds be returned. I'd like to ask that audits take place and you consider asking the more important questions at the end, which are not just did we stay in budget, but did we honor our community and their hard-earned money by complying with the proposed budget and completing the projects at hand? It's not an attack on anybody individually. I think that this has been going on so long that sometimes full systems evolve out of one error and then 2 errors and then not questioning. And then it just snowballs and turns into what we have now, which is you're asking the important questions and a lot of them are on that document. So I'll have to take a good look at it. I do want to say that a lot of agencies, organizations, boards, councils, etc., we work for nothing, no incentives at all. And the incentive is what we give back to our communities. For SAM, what many in the community see is a budgetary crisis. Line items that anyone can get from SAM's website that are troubling and should be troubling. I think over the last 5 years, the misuse of funds topping $1 million, and I put that as a very generous amount because I think it's closer to $3 or $4 million. Allocated to infrastructure and then explained away with the money was used for other things. I know that Nancy knows that that's unacceptable. I know that Barbara knows that it's unacceptable. And I hope that you continue to push with firm language about line item by line item displays for the community to see, because I think that the community feels like, what the hell is happening with our funds? And we look to you, especially in Granada, to say, where is our money going? Is it being used in the right way? And we're a small community, we're hurting, and there's a world of hurt coming at us right now with this geopolitical environment that we're in. I sat with families that are talking about what line items to take off of their insurance benefits so that they can afford groceries every month. This has to be fixed. So I'm glad that you're trying to soften the language, but at the same time, I think everybody in this room knows that if this were to happen in a general business or another organization, somebody would lose their job. Thank you.
We also, sorry, you want to address that?
No, I have one, you made me think of one more thing just to share.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No. Kevin mentioned community visibility. I just wanted to, for the community, limited materials gone to the SAM board and more to the finance committee. Nobody comes to the finance committee except the people on the committee, generally, and it's not filmed by PCTV. It's recorded so that, if there's a public request, you can get access to it. But one of the changes we'll make is that line item detail, including project level line item detail, will now be in the monthly agenda for SAM pack for SAM that is on SAM's website. And so that will give the community broadly much more visibility on all of that line item detail than they've had before. You don't have to go searching for the finance committee. Just look at the monthly, usually end of the month, second meeting of the month, SAM agenda.
Please ask a 30-second follow-up question to that, Nancy.
Go.
So I was really curious when you were talking about the line items, and I was glad to see that you were bringing some accountability to that. And I think that that's really critically important. Can you just speak to the merit of moving money from one place to another and the acceptability within SAM's structure or any kind of organizational structure as being acceptable? Is there ever a reason that that would be acceptable? I know there's like under $20,000 or $10,000 or under the 50,000 cap, maybe you can move funds around, but I'm talking about these multi-million-dollar shifts of money. Is there ever any reason in your mind that a GM or a director should have the ability to move that sum of money, especially when it's coming from multiple districts?
Yeah. I will tell you, and this is where we actually had to get to the same version of reality in the discussions we've been having over the last several months. From the GM's perspective, from the CFO's perspective, from some of the board members' perspective, the infrastructure budget is one line and didn't have line items, even though there are specific details in the budget package. And so when you look at it that way, they weren't moving money. They were spending out of that one line. We look at it to say there were detail below that. So there is money being moved. And then sometimes Kishan would say, we'll allocate from this project to that, and that never happened. But I have to say, other than Barbara, board members kind of went, okay. And so, we all have some accountability to share for that. And by making this more visible, and by a couple of us are going to be as vocal as we've ever been, but we're a bigger part now. And actually some of the membership of the board has changed. Paul Nagengas from Half Bay was a city manager. He's been a public agency manager, and those big overages were not acceptable to him. And so one of the challenges of this is the board changes all the time. So I think we're in a place now where we can make these things bigger and more real. It's not millions at once, Kevin. It's 50,000 here, 40,000 there, 60,000 there.
Right?
In the fiscal year, from their perspective, if you budgeted 3.5 and you came in 3.5 plus or minus 100,000, you made budget. Even if you didn't fund all the things you were going to fund, and you funded some things for us.
I'm just very grateful that you're doing line item by line item, and Jen, her place is not to be lost. I think there was a whereas where you can suggest that a percentage of the review is based on the success and actually balancing a budget, which is common sense, I think, for anybody who's working on that.
Very much common sense. Yeah.
I would be extremely grateful to see something like that, as soft as you need to put it, because it's accountability is accountability.
Given your interest in the line item, you can go to the SAM website, look under board agendas, look for the finance committee meeting of today. And there are draft stuff in there that gives the CIP project detail and the non-CIP project detail that we're looking to bring into the new year into regular reporting, as well as with the line item report every month to the board will look at. So if you're interested, you can go see.
It's just it's been troublesome.
Anyone else? We have letters from 4 residents about just several of them use the same language, which is I am writing to inform you that the Sewer Authority Midcoast side Sam has shown no interest in reforming your work on the board may be the only action to prevent handing over funds to an agency that operates year after year in the red and has yet to be held accountable for millions in this community's taxpayer dollars. And that's Kelly Rogers. Steve Wall, slightly different note, but along the same lines from Diane Paoli, and then Delia Comito with a more detailed comment talking about some of the detailed expenses, which we should probably address at some point, but not as part of the budget.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point in time to point out, everybody can attend the SAM meetings.
Yeah.
Which is where the action happens.
So she went on since February sitting in Zoom.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but I think encourage people to go there because that's the people creating the budget.
And then the other agencies also hear the commentary.
Right.
well, thank you.
And then we have another note from Susie Perkins, who has specific questions about one of the expenses in the SAM final end of their last financial report, specifically about the increase in miscellaneous items and she was told it was due to an increase in the cost of document storage services. I followed up on this to find more about it. Yes, Iron Mountain, where they store all their documents, has raised their rates by $2,000 a month, which seems, and it's about 5,000. So it seems excessive, but I looked at the paperwork and they have sort of all this stuff that you'd have to pour through to figure out any justification. And the other aspect is that Sam has had 2 massive public records requests in the last 6 months. And that takes a lot of, I think they have to get stuff back from Iron Mountain to satisfy those requests, and that increases their costs. So I don't have a perfect answer for that one, but I will see if I can get more on it. So would someone like to make a motion to approve? Yes?
One more note for the community. I did, because it's probably not well known. Barbara signs almost every check that goes out of SAM. Every check needs 2 signatures. Barbara is the signature almost all the time, one of them. I am maybe half the time the other one. And so when she reviews it, she looks at every bit of detail behind that check. And she asks lots of questions. I just want you to know you have a person on your case.
Thank you. Yes, well, and I have the same question, which, at some point it would be interesting to pursue some of these of why some bills are so high, but, and I have to say, they are all legitimate expenses. They may be too high, but there's nothing there. There's several of them that I'm like, another $100,000 check. But, and I do ask, we can talk about
It's
it.
going into the plan. It's not going to be
all right.
I will make a motion.
Yes, go for
that we approve GCSD revised resolution number 20601. Revised resolution approving the Sewer Authority Midcoast general budget for fiscal year 2026-27.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Right. Can we just,
Yes, hands.
okay.
All in
All
favor?
those in favor? Okay.
Any opposed? None opposed.
No opposed.
Passes 4-0.
Yeah. And then we need to move on to the collections budget, which is much simpler. And I was really pleased that you spelled out that the sewer authority budget comes out of the JPA. The collections comes from a specific contract in 2010.
No, 1987.
Jeez.
The collections agreement was more recent than that, I thought. No? Okay. Well, whatever.
We had talked about
It's
doing it, but
It's a separate contract.
Yes.
So we have a staff report and we can do this fast.
well, my staff report is very quick. We only kicked this to this meeting from last meeting because we generally approve the budgets in the same meeting. So that's why it's on here. I clarified a couple questions I had, so it all looks good.
We're just contracting with Sam for service on our collection system. So it's
And the team they have does a great job. And I will say there's a report later, and I always look to see of the three agencies who has the problems. And pretty much always
But you're not
GCSD.
gleeful about that. Yes.
We have no problem. Just that sentence, pretty much, we have no problems.
If people call, they come, they check it and they say, you got to get a plumber. Because it's not a problem with the sewer system. It's the wastewater system. It's
because you're flushing those non-flushable wipes and you're pouring grease down the drain. Not you.
She pointed, was like, you are like, right. I know that.
all right. Can we have a motion, please?
Go ahead, Jen.
No. Okay, I move that we accept the draft sewer authority Midcoast fiscal year 2026-27 collections budget and associated resolution of approval.
Second.
Does she need to read the resolution number?
Oh,
No,
No?
we'll put it in the minutes.
Okay. Any further?
Who seconded?
Do we have a second? Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay. You're getting so speedy.
Discussion has- I did a history walk and there was somebody who called Sam because there was an odor. The community members that Tony and his team interact with for service on the sewer lines, love them. They are always polite, they are always helpful, they are always informative, and I've never heard anything but, wow, they're wonderful feedback.
yeah, and they always wave,
Yeah.
say hello. I love Tony.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tony.
All right, moving on. Now we're going to talk about the GCSD budget.
Exhausted.
That is what it
Yes, ma'am.
But it is a delight to see how well put together it is, how it's easy to read. It's just very well done.
It is, Chuck's strength is all the financial stuff. I'm sure he has other strengths, but
He's not
when you see the other reports and we have a great accounting team at SAM. No disparagement there. They cleaned up a major accounting mess and
they took over.
we do audits and they are clean audits every year. It's not that auditing and accounting, it's the financial reporting that we're looking to improve. But we have never, I think, had a scintilla of critical feedback on Chuck's financial.
Nice, good.
That's really well.
Thank you. I keep it simple, certainly, right?
We have the
It's
best lawyer
embarrassing.
and the best GM.
Every year we do this budget and it's kind of a boring discussion, unlike the SAM discussion, because our budget is generally the same. We don't run a treatment plant here, which is where you get the details and the projects and all that kind of stuff. So kind of highlights from this budget is our expenditures were basically on budget for the last year. We had an increase of 5% in our sewer service charge.
And you give us a nice graph.
And you get a nice graph. I give credit to Dan for that one. But so we're kind of looking, if you look on page 73, and you look at our sewer revenues, they go up a little bit again because of the sewer service charge, but that's 5%. We have that in place for the next 4 years. If you turn to page, and anyone stop me during this if you have any questions. Page 74 is the SAM budget, which we just beat to death. Page 75.
Don't make me mention it again.
Is our cost for administrative expenses. So that's just us at GCSD. If you look at that, we're pretty flat across the way. Our budget was 828. We projecting 851. It's a delta of 22,000, and that's going to go down to 784 because we're going to lose all those legal costs we had for the City of Half Moon Bay lawsuit. So pretty much flat across the board with a slight dip for the coming year. So we'll save a little bit of money. And then the capital projects, as we've been discussing on the next page, we had budgeted for the sewer main replacement program because of what's happening at SAM. We're gonna need that money to fund the Montero Force Main project. Let me go back, I skipped over the Montero Force Main project. If you go back to page 74, you can see what Barbara alluded to earlier, which was we are budgeting 2.294 million for the San Montero Force Main project. That's our 18% of the expected 12 million coming due this year. So even though Sam's got a placeholder for 3.51, we know it's going to be $12 million, and I want to be prepared for it. So.
And we have the reserves.
And we have, you're right, we have 3.9 million predicted in reserves at the June 30th. Our deficit will be 1.4, so we'll still have 2.4 million in sewer reserves only. So that's a comfortable level. I'm comfortable with that. We're going to want to slowly increase that over the years because of the spending at SAM. So, but it's not catastrophic by any means. I'm very comfortable with it.
Yes. I will lobby for, once the force main is done, as you have said, $3 million a year has been looked at by SAM and frankly, some other agencies as a target for SAM on the infrastructure. We think of it as a cap, but I think actually we need a little bit of a project holiday, let the staff catch up, finish all the trailing projects, and let the agencies catch up with their own CIP projects in their own collection systems and, retain more of our money rather than keeping the same amount to SAM. So, we'll lobby for a lower infrastructure budget for a few years, only truly necessary projects to allow us some time to catch up our reserves and our own CIP projects.
And if you look at their report, they say it's going to cost another 8 million to finish up the past projects. And that's,
That includes 6.5 for SAM.
Okay.
I mean, for the force main.
Right.
6.5 for the force main.
Okay.
And they already replaced, as you said. The plant looks far different than it did 6 years ago. It's very, they've replaced everything. Now they have to remember that when you buy a pump, you also have to pay a lot to install it.
I think a lot was learned over this project.
All right, so that's the sewer budget. Now I'll turn it over to Hope for the parks budget.
Also very simple because it uses Chuck's template. So, our property tax allocation goes up just a little bit every year. So we'll have a little more coming in revenue. ERAP has come in a little higher, but, we try not to project that too high just because we can't ever fully know if we're going to get it every year. So, but overall, we're coming up, we're budgeting it, or we're expecting revenues of about 1.6 million for next year for the park side. And again, just to emphasize that is property tax, our portion of the property tax allocation. So sewer revenue is charged as a sewer service charge. This comes in as property tax revenue, and the ERAP is the augmentation fund. So on expenditures, we expect it to go up a little bit on just the general operations, administrative expenses. But generally it's pretty flat. We did have a bit of a bump this year as far as in the line 11 office maintenance repairs and so forth. That big jump was because of the skate ramp replacement that we had to do. So that number, we look over budget on that one by about 20,000, but it's because of that skate ramp, which came in at about 21,000.
Money well spent.
Yes, money was definitely money well spent.
We love this game.
Yeah. But even with that, we're still only about $14,000 over what we expected. So we're actually kind of, if you didn't have to count that, would be a little bit under. The big thing for this, obviously, for the park side is the project for the Granada Community Park and Recreation Center. We went with a big number for right now, but I think that number is going to be pretty refined by next month because, if you look at what those design fees and all the construction management costs will be, the likelihood that it's all going to be spent in the next fiscal year is very unlikely. So it's really not going to be that high, but we wanted to kind of start with a number just so we sort of see where that would put us. But I think that by next month, when CPM comes back with some actual phasing and actual numbers for us, we'll be able to refine that.
So we're gonna do that on our next agenda.
Yes, and this is a draft budget. There will be, you know, it's hard to do a draft budget because we are basing our financials off the end of March right now. And, you know, because we're always 2 months behind on what the financials are. So it'll be a little more accurate in another month, and we'll also have some better ideas on that part.
Yeah, and that 2.3 is literally pretending we're gonna do the design of everything within the next year. Both buildings, the park and all that. I think that's gonna happen.
Well, if it doesn't, we'll give Mike some feedback.
And we are
No,
not.
we may not want
approving
it.
Just for review.
No, this is just,
Yeah, we'll have to do a public hearing to do the actual budget, so.
Great. Moving on to consideration of policy and resolution for the statewide November 3rd, 2026 general election.
So this is what we do every 2 years. There are just a few things for your board to decide tonight. You'll need to decide whether or not you want the statements to be 200 or 400 words, whether or not the candidate or the district will pay for that statement. And then there's a resolution that I have to return to the elections office, spelling out those decisions, and also that we're ready to put our election on the statewide general election ballot. But in the past 2 rounds, this board has decided on 200 words, and the district has paid for those, and that's for both incumbents and any new candidates.
Would someone like to make a motion for this?
Can I make a comment? It's not kind of where I steer. It is I just want to say that having kind of put myself up for different seats, it's really hard to for some people to get everything out in 200 words. I would just even the 2 minutes that people are allowed for their statements when they come in, like that's not even enough for me, who I'm terrified of public speaking. Just over 20 years, I've learned how to like shove it in and just keep going. But it's a real issue, I think, for incumbents who know the lay of the land and kind of have their groove. But for people who are new to this, I think that it would be a better option for them to have that 400-word option if they can afford it to pay for some of that on their own. Fine, if not, ask for assistance. But I think that it is something to consider.
Okay, thank you. I don't know, I've always felt it was good to pay for it, just because people do a lot to run for office, and it's just one thing. We as an agency would say we value what you're doing.
Yeah, and I know it's, all of us have done it, the 3 of us have done the 200 words, and you really have to get down to what do these people need to know about to vote for me. And, when they go through and count the words, I think you always end up at 200.
now you got ChatGPT.
But I like to say, as somebody who doesn't read all the stuff, I appreciate the people who have 200 words.
That's sort of my feeling is people aren't going to read really long stuff. And I've always felt you can sum it up pretty well in 200 words. I don't know. Sorry, but what do other people think?
Cost been
It's gonna ask.
in previous years
How many-
for candidate?
I think payment's based on words, right?
It's based on words, then it's also, based on the number of candidates, and we actually are budgeting for this for the next year. So I think we're budgeting about $30,000 just to cover the elections costs for the next fiscal year.
But
It's not candidate
That's
sales.
not just the candidates,
No.
that's everything.
If we bump it up to 400, how much would it increase?
I don't know that, I could find out, but that's.
I don't think it's that much. How much it actually costs you depends on how many of the candidates actually put in statements, which then results in how many pages they need to have in the printed booklet. And then they take the printed booklet and divide it by the number of people.
I don't think it's a big cost. I'd be
It just-
shocked if it was in comparison. to
Yeah.
broader election.
If a lot of people do that, it may result in more pages, which increases the overall cost of the book.
And
But
we're
I'm
tiny
not so
percent.
strong about it.
Well, I think, forcing people to, we've always just had 200 words, and I think most jurisdictions around here do 200. Anybody know? Do we have to decide this tonight?
No, we could bring it back in June.
Let's do that and have a little more information about
Yeah,
that.
because I think last time we did this in June, so I mean, there's enough time to get this returned.
I think the norm for us has been 200 and we pay for it,
But that's what she said.
even
Yeah.
beyond the 2 years.
But I think the question is saying like, what is the norm more broadly? Like, are we an outlier or do most folks have 200 words or is it 400? And what's the implication cost wise to go from 200 to 400? Those are the two questions I heard.
If it's nothing, I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not cost, is not the issue to me. It's whether.
I think based on looking at the ballots, I mean, you can sort of tell the difference. The ones that are 200, it's the block's about the same size for everybody,
Yeah.
right? I think generally it's usually more in the 200 range. But
We'll vote on this in our budget this next
do you want to
year.
bring it back?
Yeah.
Okay. So you'd like me to try and find
It'll
out,
dramatically change our overall budget.
yeah. Find out what the price difference is if I can on 200 or 400 and
Well, if you ask the elections office between 200 and 400, what do most agencies do?
okay.
That would just be helpful.
And are there material cost differentials on like 200 versus 400?
And-
All right.
All right, moving on to the engineer's report. There it is.
There's nothing earth shaking
So we're
John's report.
these two houses that are on San Juan and Dolores are both adding main line. Good night, Kevin.
Thank you.
Adding main line.
Yes, so one house goes off on San Juan, it would be the very last possible house to build on San Juan. The other one would turn off to the right on Dolores. That house on Dolores is already connected. But the owner of the home passed away and the other two parcels, their lateral currently cuts through the other two parcels, which has always been part of that property. Now they want to subdivide the properties, split the parcels, so they're gonna need to run the lateral
Oh,
in the roads where it's, technically probably should have been in the first place. So that's why they're looking to expand expand.
I mean, we just don't always realize the things like that you deal with here in the office.
Surprisingly, it's the majority of what I deal with. It just doesn't get talked about as much.
Administrative staff report. I notice it says there were 2 permits issued, but there's only 1 permit listed.
Oh, that's probably just a typo. I think there was only 1 permit, so maybe I will double check, but. Yeah, so getting CPM up to speed on the park plan, that's been the majority of what we've been working on. We've started the sewer service charge report, which, takes a little time to get the water usage for all the commercial and then calculate it out and then, but that's moving along and obviously the meetings with Caltrans and that sort of thing took up a lot of time. We did have a meeting with San Mateo County Sustainability Office, and they are I think we're gonna start putting a portal for their dump it and report, their reporting mechanism on the county's website. We're gonna put a link to that on ours because the county has sort of realized that if somebody does illegal dumping here, they're gonna end up having to call us anyway. They have a mechanism, but really their mechanism is so many more steps than if somebody just reports it directly to us, because then the college will go get it. So it's a much faster thing. Then we had our missing trash can caper, which was very funny.
Tell us about it.
Yeah.
There was a trash can missing that used to be out by the yacht club, but it was on the street technically, and somebody thought that it belonged to the yacht club and it got rolled onto the yacht club property and was there for a while. We had a couple people very angry who normally do beach cleanup, and the trash can wasn't available anymore. So we had to go through some work to get it back, but it took a little while to figure out where it's been taken.
Oh, by the yacht club.
Yeah, there's a very heavy trash can right by the yacht club's trash enclosure, but their property line literally ends where their trellising ends. They're right on the property line. And so that trash can is technically, ours. And Delia had worked very hard a few years back to get that trash can placed there. I had to go back and find all the emails to determine, where it was supposed to be and so forth, but it is back in its rightful place now.
I'm glad you look at it as the trash can keeper. I think that's great.
Versus annoyance.
Yeah. And do we really need a report on the sewer authority mid-coast meetings?
Two lines. One is the Montero Force Main coastal development permit was issued.
Yes.
So that's done. And we had another round with Half Moon Bay at the last SAM meeting that we are not going to make any new considerations or concessions to them in exchange for doing something that they should have done at the 1st of March, which is simply, if they want to do something for SAM, for the PPA project, the power project, give a new lifeline of 25 years to the easement that's been in place since.
They have to admit they gave the thing to Sam, for God's sakes, the plant's built on that property. It's sitting on that
Well, I
property.
did actually, thanks to Bill, get to make the point that Sam doesn't need the easement.
Right.
Sam got the land and credit was given to Half Moon Bay in order to build the plant. The easement only came up because the solar vendor is going to be installing their equipment on the land and monitoring it, managing it for 25 years. And they needed permission from the landowner to do that so that they knew that they could keep it there for 25 years and not be thrown off. Could have been as simple as, yes, you have our permission.
Right.
It didn't even necessarily need an easement. But as soon as it came to light that the easement was expired, it became a bartering tool for Half Moon Bay. And I have to say that we and Montera have held the line saying, you already got credit, you can't double dip. This latest one, they brought actually an interesting proposal for exchange, but it doesn't need to be done in exchange, which only makes it more complicated. We said, bring us that proposal with more details and let's consider it as standalone because it's interesting. But
then the resolution was they were supposed to both come at the same time, but hasn't the deadline passed now?
we had a potential special meeting. They're just working with the vendor to say, is it basically too late for you to do what you have to do in order to qualify for the Inflation Reduction Act credits? And if it doesn't, then the whole thing.
And hopefully there will be a new administration, a better deal.
Project that'll save 10 grand a year.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's only gonna save 20 grand a year.
And the amount of staff time that's already gone into it. It's just.
And lawyer time.
Oh, I'm packing up. I guess I need my agenda.
Consent agenda.
Yeah, consent agenda.
Don't need to pull anything. I move we pass the consent agenda.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? Consent agenda passes 4-0.
Looks like I didn't.
Committee reports.
Committee reports, thank you.
No committee
No
reports.
committee reports? All right, what's next?
Information calendar.
Attorney's report.
Oh, attorney's report.
No report.
General manager.
Nothing further.
Can you just read the
Future agenda items.
If you have something that pops up, email us.
All right, adjourn the meeting.
Okay, so this meeting is adjourned.
You're running a fast meeting, Jen.
You knew that already.
I can feel her next to me like.